maybe Mini, your mask is
It will be
prophesying
100%,
something.
100% first pick Saw. No,
Your
but
mask
Kestrel
is.
Band is interesting.
Yeah, it is, and your mask definitely prophesying something right now for the side of Bren Esports, and maybe first pick Saw.
I don't think it will be a first pick Saw, but I think it definitely is a consideration. Maybe they'll first pick Lyra, try and get that later on in the draft if Kestrel is picked up. Sorry, if Vox is picked up, because Saw does so well against someone like Vox. It could be definitely could be something to watch out for. If Lyra is let through, of course, Lyra could be banned away now if they don't want to play against it. Not quite sure how comfortable Bren Esports are going to be on this Saw, but it is definitely a pick that was like really useful to play with, and you can just end games pretty quickly. But Black Feather be banned away, so I would expect a Lyra pick, but maybe they want to pick up Arden.
Yep, they can go for that Lyra or Arden pickup. I personally think Arden works better with Saw because of the extra speed boost. I mean, Imperial Sigil do give you that, but we will be seeing a Churn Walker coming through. And we've seen something very familiar, similar from other teams like RNG and IMP as well in the Vainglory 8. Churn Walker definitely seeing a lot of plays in Vainglory 8 Southeast Asia in this particular week. As for the side of 500 first, Arden being picked up, one of the more meta captains coming through, so that is understandable. But if the side of 500 first do not quite ban out that Petal right now, or if not that Saw, there's a chance that Bren Esports might just pick up either or.
Yeah, Churnwalker does work really well with Saw. As you saw, it would pull them towards you, and then you would stuck in a tough position. I think there's a chance we're going to see it if the Vox is second picked, by 5-0 first. But we're going to have to wait and see. I think Vox should be left open. It's not too much of a problem for them to play against. Maybe they want to ban the Rhyme now. That might be a smart ban for Bren Esports, just to deny away as that second pick.
Yep, Rhyme would be a good ban, and there we have it. We will be seeing a Rhyme ban coming through. Now, it's a good chance for 500 first to just lock in that Saw, but they will go for the Vox opening that Saw up. If the side of Bren Esports do pick up the sword, they will have a relatively easy early game, right? I mean, they have got a Churn Walker, so the side of 500 first in response to the Saw can easily pick up any assassins, try to get into the backlines, and to basically assassinate that. So, but I don't think Bren Esports will prioritize on that at this point in time. A lot is still on the table. They can easily go for, the Baron that Mr. Jim plays quite often as well.
Yeah, there is a lot of options for them. They're not forced into anything. It's really what is comfortable for Mr. Jim. We know he likes to play Baron, he likes to play Weapon Petal, but that's been banned away. So quite a few options are off the table. And he's kind of going down towards the lower priority heroes with this Weapon Power laner. But talking about the Crystal Power jungler, I'd expect to see maybe a Reza. I've taken my Saw mask off, but it's coming back on. They've picked Saw.
Well, yep, they have. And like I mentioned earlier on, I think Lara, if not, then Arden definitely priority. If you're going to go for the Saw comp because of the Vanguard But a Churn Walker works well as well. You pull everyone close to you. Saw don't have to travel far. You don't have that speed boost. So if you cannot reach them, why not just let them reach you? But of course, the last pickup for the side of Bren Esports, they can settle for that Reza. We see Reza working relatively well with the Saw, and we will be seeing a Reza coming through.
Yeah, I do like the Reza pick. I think it's great against the Vox. Arden will be slightly annoying to play against because of that Vanguard that provides you quite a lot of barrier, so Vox will be able to kite away. But this Saw is going to be so annoying to play against. They're forced to put this Vox into lane. They're going to settle with an Alpha. Alpha does do quite well against Saw. It's not really a hard counter, as it is, because Alpha's really good against Baron, because Baron's all about bursting you down, and Alpha can tank that and then use ultimate. Problem with the Saw is if you go into reboot and Saw is anywhere close, you're dead. You can't kite away when you're using your reboot. Saw's just going to attack you with a few stacks. You're going to go down. So Alpha can work if you manage to burst Saw down and force him to run away when you go into your ultimate. But if Saw can tank that ultimate from Alpha, especially early game, she's going to die in the reboot, and then Vox is the next target, and it should be quite easy for Bren Esports. I like their comp, and I'm going to go for Bren Esports in this one.
Yep, I am with you on this, and maybe Saw can tank up a couple of shots from Alpha, but there's one thing I cannot tank, and that is the Saw mask that you still have on. I, I apologize for laughing so much through the introduction, and of course the draft phase as well. But coming into this particular game itself, I'm expecting a lot of early aggression coming out from the side of Bren Esports, and the side of 500 Fast, they can basically try to just turtle out, farm up, and Alpha can definitely burst down the saw, but there will be a lot of walls to get through. One of the major walls would be that of Churn Walker, but hey, Alpha is not afraid of those hook and chains. I mean, Alpha just want to be close to your allies, to Churn Walker's allies after all. And the most difficult thing would be Reza getting into the back lines of the side of 500 First, and the only reason being, like you mentioned earlier on, would be the Vanguard coming through from Arden, and if Arden uses those Gauntlet very defensively, then that is another wall that Reza has to get through. Another form detonator to get through the walls without, not stunning Reza out. But it will be down to execution and how well Bren Sports can push this early game.
Yeah, Reza does well against Arden. Obviously, as you said, you can ult out of the gauntlet if Vox decides to run away from that without needing a reflex block. But Alpha really is good against Churnwalker because Churnwalker does nothing except to stun that really annoys Alpha. Hook and Chain, yeah, she takes a bit of damage, but Alpha doesn't really care about that damage taken until she's used her reboot, and in which case Churnwalker might even be dead. And so that does make sense. The Torment helps Alpha. She will always be able to catch up. If you're trying to use that to make her keep the distance, she can just use her B on Churnwalker, get some stacks, and prime directive into the back line. So that does work, but I still really think that Alpha's going to have such a tough time doing anything against this Saw, because as soon as he gets his first item, probably going to be breaking Serpent's Mask into Breaking Point this game. I prefer to see the Saw Blade Triple Tyrants. I think that does really well with a Saw, but against an Alpha, you really want Breaking Point. You're almost guaranteed to put up 20 stacks when she goes into reboot. Then Vox is going to have absolutely nothing on you, even if he's built a Breaking Point himself.
Yep, we've seen several builds coming through in Southeast Asia when we do see a Saw, and firstly would be that of the Serpents into Breaking Point. We saw that the Sustain Saw that can just stay in the fight for such a long time, and I think Mr. Jim will actually go for that particular build because there is no Arden or even that of Lyre to help with the sustain, so it will be more sensible. Of course, I do agree with you. More damage on Saw is always better because you just can ruin things so quickly and just pierce through, just kill everything in your path as long as one of the bullets touch something, and it dies basically. As Saw, but of course, for the Reza, there's a debate that goes on usually between us as casters, right? So you want to see that the Broken Myth and an Aftershock. Whereas for me, I prefer the Dragon's Eye and Aftershock.
I think Aftershock has to be the first item picked up on Rezo. It's so good this patch that it would be kind of stupid not to first pick it, unless you're up against double squishy, in which case you might want to go Shatterglass. And I think the second item from Reza should always be Broken Myth. I don't think Shatterglass makes a lot of sense. He has really low CP ratios. You should just pick up your Broken Myth to go through any armor or shield, so go through the shield they might have. But then again, Dragon's Eye can work depending on how long the fight's going to go. The only problem with that is that Reza, as a hero, is entirely focused around burst. If Reza can get in there and burst you down, he's going to win the fight with that Aftershock proc, with his fire starter. But by going for Dragon's Eye, you try and scale up your damage into later on in the fight, which is not what Reza's about. And also, with a Saw, if fights last very long, Saw should have probably killed everyone by now. So I think Dragon's Eye is just not kind of necessary. I think Aftershock into Broken Myth and then defense and last item either Clockwork or Eve of Harvest for energy sustain. That seems to be the optimum build on Reza. Maybe against his Alpha, he's going to go Dragon's Eye, but I wouldn't expect it.
Yeah, but the team comp coming through from Bren Esports suggests that they have to play super aggressively. And the only reason I say that is because if Saw and Churn Walker do fall back, it will be very difficult for any peel to come through from the side of Bren Esports, unless, of course, you act like a Finn, you stand away from your Saw and you try to land your hook and chains and pull them away from your Saw. But that is not quite what Churn Walker is about. Your kid is really just pull Saw towards you and try to distribute Saw's damage throughout the entirety of the enemies. But Vox definitely will have a hard time going up against Saw in this early game. But I'm quite curious as to see how 500 First will respond. I mean, 500 First, not exactly a bad team, but Bren Esports definitely showing up in the past weeks.
Yeah, we are now loading into the house to unfold for the first game between Bren Esports and 5-0 First Legion. Saw's going to go and push lane, and I think Bren Esports are going to go very aggressive to start.
Ooh, I like the skin coming out from Mr. Jim. More often than not, we do see the summer skin, if not then the tier 3 skin. But I think the skin looks really, really good on Saw. But Bren Esports with that very aggressive maneuver starting out on the front camps of the side of 500 First and taking the Elder Tree and the moment it spawns. So Bren Esports definitely doing a very good job in the early game, but this lane babysitted by X3 Jasmine, Revenger X will have a relatively easier time coming through the early game because of the speed boost provided and a health barrier as well. But Mr. Jim will not go through a jungle with Reza, instead will go up into lane to try to push.
Yeah, one thing that I have noticed that Bren Esports are doing really well is they're using Churn Walker properly in the jungle. They were as 3 and Saw would start up the front camps and then left them, and I was a bit confused what he was going to do. But Churn Walker got the chains on those front camps when they were just taking the Elder Tree, and so splits the damage across everything. You get the front camps for free by taking the Elder. There was smart plays by Bren Esports, and now Avenger X is in a really tough position. Saw's level 2, has that has the Shank to run away, has the Roadie run to make sure that if Alpha decides to come to lane, Saw can just get out. And if Alpha doesn't come to lane, Revenger X is going to be in a lot of trouble. But Saw, interestingly enough, going for that Elder Treant again. I'm surprised that he's doing that because Guessing X is getting ambient, so Saw's not going to get anything, not going to get much from this.
Yep, Saw may not get much, but he will be going for the front camps instead of the side of Bren Esports, and Reza will be taking the front camps of Alpha. So all in all, I want to say, I guess it's a very good split of gold throughout the jungle in the early stages. I mean, it will not amount to much in the early game, but, you know, after a few rotations like that, Saw will definitely have more CS, more money, more gold compared to Revenger X. And as you mentioned, Revenger X having a tough time in this lane, but Guessing X, very, very low.
Could be in trouble. Alpha's going to come up to lane. Guessing X is going to go down, but Saw is standing still. Actually, Alpha's going to go down. He's going to go down. And now Saw's got the boots away. One thing Mr. Jim did was buy those tier 1 boots early on. The reason why you can keep doing that rotation down to the jungle back up to the lane was because he picked up boots, which we don't see often on Saw. Working towards Solar Blade first, so we're probably going to see Solar Blade triple tyrants. We might see Solar Blade breaking point tyrants, but it is going to be a Solar Blade first. I like that as a Saw, but against this Alpha, maybe the smart decision was to go for the breaking point. But Saw farming up well. He's got a minion candy that he bought himself to try and help push this lane down. Revenger X is going to put home. He's going to get home. Alpha, though, is in the jungle, so this turret could be under jeopardy if Jasmine can't do too much.
Yep, I mean, minion candies popped on the blue minions as well, so Mr. Jim will definitely be able to shred through this turret like, you know, hot knife over butter.
Wow.
But now the red side will come in. X3 Jasmine and Revenger X may be looking for something, trying to stop the siege coming through from Mr. Jim, but I don't think it is quite possible. Saw with the first tier turret, 3 minutes in.
Yeah, get the Torment Avenger is going to get pulled back and 2 basic attacks. Mr. Jim needed the 3rd to secure that kill, but now Reza is here. That's going to be a basic attack. Jasmine getting that proc on the fire starter. Another Torment pulling this Alpha back in. Now what is Mr. Jim going to do? He can afford a Soul Blade if he goes down to shop, but will the Corby take this turret? He saw he can do it pretty well. 3 healing flasks popped by 5-0 First Legion, and so now Bren Esports in an advantageous position. They've got a lot of gold though, about 3,000-4,000 between the members, and so they really don't want to fight that much. Torment could come out, chain onto Alpha and onto Jasmine. There's going to be Saw using that specifier. Basic attack from Reza with the fire starter. Sorry, with the Troublemaker proc is going to get the kill, but Mr. Jim's going to go very low. Troublemaker over the wall, going to try and secure this tree, and Scout Trap's going to pop them out. But Saw did manage to port home to pick up his Solar Blade. So really nice start from Bren Esports to get the first turret, and they're looking very strong. Already about 2.5k gold ahead.
Yep, they are looking very, very strong, and Sync One just really acting like the assassin that Reza is made to be. Thank God for no Storm Crown, because I don't think that quite worked anymore. And we saw, if I'm not wrong, in Vainglory 8, actually, in Southeast Asia, Storm Crown Reza coming through in 2.9.1, which kind of boggled my mind. And so I was looking very closely.
It lost, didn't it? It lost.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And that's why I was looking very closely at how Sync One on this Reza will build, and I'm honestly very, very pleased with how the game is going and how Sync One is playing. Although ICJL can be a little more aggressive, we saw the early game gank, but X3 Jasmine has the Vanguard away.
Yeah, it's going to be an off-shot picked up by Reza. This is a really nice power spike. Alpha going for probably Dragon's Eye first, which is very different to what we expect most alphas to build. So looking to push this lane up, Mr. Jim. He's happy. He starts stepping away the scout trap, but he doesn't care. He's popped into some confusion, and ICJL is trying to go in, but he just can't. If he goes anywhere close to this sword, he's going to get shredded through. X3 Jasmine, Firestarter does get applied. Torment going to yank him back, but the fountain is going to be not quite there. He's not going to use it on himself. He's going to use the healing flask, and so Alpha uses that telemetry protocol. Mr. Jim's going to take that to push the turret. Nice chains from Turnwalker. Alpha into the suppressing fire. Reza's going to get a Treant, and now what is the call? What are Bren Esports going to do? It looks like they're going to try and get this Tier 2 turret, and most likely they're going to get it. I don't think Revenger X can stop this. Look how far behind this turret he is. So has got stacks still. He kept them up. Turret's going to go down. Now what is the fight? Are they going to fight? Yes. There's another form of Death Sensor. Alpha going to go in, but he's going down by Sync One. Aftershock does pick up the kill. Chermok actually gets it onto the box, and now it's Jasmine will be the next target. Alpha manages to back to the base, but Tier 2 turret down. Will Bren Esports push for the Tier 3?
Whoa, 6 minutes in Tier 3, that would be quite insane timing coming through from Bren Esports if they do decide to push through, and they will.
Wow.
So, wow, I mean, so just definitely putting in so much work. With 2 kills, they took 2 turrets from that. So the side of 500 first, I say they have to turtle up, but if you've got nothing to turtle up, it will be very, very difficult for the side of 500 first to come back from this.
6k gold lead, 6 minutes in. It's certainly looking good for Bren Esports. They did not deny the jungle away, so I see JL is actually very close to Reza in terms of CS. But when we go to lane, it's a slightly different story. Take Revenger X's CS, double it, and that's pretty much what Mr. Jim is on. So this is not good. 87 CS over to 44. Maybe 45 once he gets his front cap. But Bren Esports looking so strong. Saw with 2 items, Vox with 1. They should fight and they can win. Goldman secured by the Saw. He's attacking Catherine. Attacking the Alpha, and he just doesn't care. Alpha's into reboot. You're going to go down. Surviving that. Torment. Sorry, no, that's going to be an ult from the Charmwalker. Going to trespass over, gets the stun. XT Jasmine hasn't got the gauntlet. It didn't manage to quite stun up Mr. Jim, and so this will be quite simple to pick up the ace, unless he can survive for another second. And out as we respawn, so Jasmine does not give away the ace. He used the fountain on himself. He didn't even fountain Avenger X in that fight, so he may survive, but there's no turret for him to back to. Bren Esports could just keep going if they wanted to. Torment was used nicely by Guessing X, but no fountain was needed. But the wave's not quite pushing for them, so Mr. Jim's going to go and grab that.
Who could actually just say confidently that they've walked the Gladiator before, but Guessing X on this Churnwalker? But very amazing players coming through from Bren Esports. I had thought the wait for it would have just secured and stole that gold mine, but it was a tad too late. And Bren Esports definitely playing the team comp to superiority right now. And I was a bit worried for Bren Esports, because most of the time when they do push down the anchor turret, they are left with no objectives to take down, so they are not quite pacing themselves. But now at this point, Bren Esports is looking very strong. They can't just march into the base, but like what Mr. Jim is doing right now, marching into all 3 members. And look at the amount of damage.
The crit chance coming in big. We're seeing Soulblade into Tornado Trigger because Thor hasn't got enough attack speed, so he needs a little bit more. Thor wasn't even spun up. He had no spin up stacks and just started attacking Revenger X, who got absolutely melted. And now they're just pushing into the base. This could be a sub 10-minute game. Senji's going to try and do something, but I don't think there's anything 5-0 first can do. XP Jasmine's back. He gets the Atlas on Saw, but it looks like game 1 will go convincingly to Bren Esports.
I mean, there is no way to put it. What even is this? Your Sawma is definitely coming through, and this Saw comp as well, showing work and putting in a lot of work for the side of Bren Esports. If the side of 500 first do not ban out this Saw in the second phase in the next draft, I will be confused.
Wow, that was certainly not what we were expecting from Mr. Jim and on his Saw. It worked out really well. I think the master may be coming back later if another team wants to get a sub 10-minute game with Saw. That's just ridiculous how well he was able to push down those turrets, and there was just nothing that 501st could do against it. I think the build was not the best. I think Tyrants is way better on Saw, but honestly, he was so far ahead in gold, he just wanted to pick up whatever tier 3 he could. Picked it up, Tornado Trigger, sure, why not? It gives you crit chance, gives you damage, and so it worked out really well. I think that the Saw pick is so strong on A side because you can bait the enemy into getting Vox. Vox has always been seen as one of the best heroes in like all patches. He'll get nerfed, doesn't matter. He'll still be strong in the meta. The items Vox builds gets nerfed, doesn't matter. He's still in the meta. So Saw, now that he's been buffed, has come through to just be the best Vox counter that there is. And I think we're seeing this.
Yep, and Saw coming into the first game, he's basically just walking into 3 people of 500 first, and he's basically choosing his menu at that point in time to like, oh, what do I feel like having today? Is it Fox? Is it Arden? Let's go for Fox, right? And then busted him down in 4 basic attacks, 400 over damage, like in a course of like a second. That was just insane damage coming through from Mr. Jim on that Saw.
Yeah, I definitely think looking at this second draft, Saw's one of those heroes that you don't want to pick too early because you can get the entire comp to just counter you. But if the enemy team picks one hero, one carry that Saw's half good against, you're fine. You're really in a good position. But that is it for speculation. We're going to find out how this draft's going to go. Draft is ready for the second game. Without further ado, let's head on into the draft.
Well, so coming into the second draft, we have 501st on the blue side and on the red side, Bren Esports. A big name and a very big ban coming through from 501st, taking out that Saw from the roster of heroes of Vainglory. As for the side of Bren Esports, they can just ban out that Rhyme, if not, then Black Feather, if they do not want to go up against it.
Well, clearly, they do not want to try and counterpick with a Celeste, maybe a Scarf, maybe CC go Koshka or Cruel. Nope, they're just first ban, we don't care. Get rid of Mr. Jim's Saw. So he's still got his weapon petal he can play very well. There's still lots of comfort picks for Mr. Jim available. So that's just definitely a response ban. I don't think that was planned by 501st, but they'll happily do it. Now, in response, there's really anything that could be banned away. Black Feather, Rhyme, Lyra, all good bans to get rid of because there's still loads of power picks left. They might even ban Vox now because with Saw out of the picture, Vox is really tough to play against.
Yep, but Son of Bren Esports will be taking the time, to go through this ban itself. And I'm not surprised. It's just down to, it's pretty much a dilemma. They have to decide whether or not they want to go up against a Fox, like you mentioned, or they want to go up against a Rhyme, or go up against a Black Feather. It is a difficult choice, I reckon, coming into the second game. I mean, they won so convincingly in the first game, and coming through, 500 first just banning out that Saw almost immediately, like no thought given, bam, Saw ban. Right, and they just don't want to go up against it. So leaving Bren Esports as the ultimate choice. If they remove Vox, 500 first will pick up the Black Feather. If they remove Black Feather, 500 first might have a chance to go with that Rhyme. Although Rhyme can be easily countered, we saw it in Impunity's game. Just have to outkite this Rhyme and just play against the Rhyme. Don't let the Rhyme get on you. And we've seen a couple of checks coming through from teams before, like that of Sky, like that of Vox, but never once did it quite work until Impunity quite show us that, Samuel does a good job against a Rhyme as long as put in an early aggression against him.
Yeah, I definitely think that Samuel works really well against Rhyme. You know that if you manage to push the fights into lane, Samuel is so much better than Rhyme at that situation. As long as you clear your jungle quickly, make sure Rhyme can't just go in and steal it, and you don't fight him in the jungle, you go up to lane, force the fights there, you're going to be okay on the Samuel. And so I think the smart ban is leave Black Feather open, because if A side picks Black Feather, B side can last pick Rona to counter it. So they could pick their own Rhyme, they could then ban away someone like a Sky, Petal, Samuel, something like that. and that's a pretty simple draft for Bren Esports to go well if they leave Blackfeather open and bait it out. If they leave Blackfeather open and it's not picked, on B side you can pick Blackfeather and then flex it into Crystal Power. But they don't want to play against it, so they're going to ban it. That's maybe showing that they're not that comfortable in playing someone like Rona.
Yep, we've seen, I think, no, we haven't quite seen Rona coming through from the side of Bren Esports before. And, you know, Mr. Jim's hero pool, I do not want to say that is very, very small, but it's kind of predictable as to what he's going to fall on. The Saw pickup was a new, right? But I mean, Saw is coming and slowly climbing back into the meta. The Saw pickup for the side of Bren Esports was new. Mr. Jim is usually seen on those Baron, the Petal, those very strong, bursty weapon pickups for the side of Bren Esports. But now we will be seeing an Arden picked up along in response to a Lyra, and both of these are powerhouse with regards to captains in 2.9.1. They are just so very strong. They provide a lot of sustain for, you know, their fellow allies.
Yeah, so Arden pick and Rhyme ban is very odd because Bren Esports obviously could have just picked Rhyme next. Perhaps they Blackfeather and Rhyme bans indicate they might want to pick Cruel with a Petal ban. That could be a Cruel pick for Bren Esports. The first Cruel we've seen today. I'm very surprised the Cruel hasn't been picked more. He's a really good hero. It was really highly prioritized by all the teams, but now fallen out of the meta, not being seen as important as he was before. And so perhaps they might pick the Vox, leave that last pick in the jungler position. With Petal out of the fold, there's not that many comfort picks for Mr. Jim that we'd say. He's still good on a lot of weapon power carries, but his main picks have been taken away.
Yep, his main picks have been taken away except for that Baron. But as we all know, Baron very, very late game. But Mr. Jim and Bren Esports, when they play this Baron, they always try to work on that early game. They try to move that late game into that of mid, and they just snowball from there. But we will be seeing a Castro coming through from the side of Bren Esports. That's the carry that I expected the least from Bren Esports, because we haven't quite seen a lot of it from them. Whereas for the side of 500 first, they can secure themselves the Vox, but of course Castro does well against this Vox, and they probably heard you. They will go for the Cruel.
Yeah, Cruel. First time he's been picked today, and the Petal ban did indicate that. But Petal ban does leave Kestrel much harder to counter, because they now can't go Fortress to counter Kestrel. Petal's minions cannot follow Kestrel, so this weapon Kestrel is going to be really tough to play against in lane. And that is the real problem now. What laner do you pick against this weapon Kestrel that's going to have any kind of chance early on in the game? They could go double weapon with something like a weapon Idris to try and dive into this Kestrel with the Cruel, or perhaps we're going to see something more old school like a lane Scarf or Celeste. That's still not going to work really well against Kestrel, so it's really a tough position for 5-0 first to be in here. And they're going to go Celeste. I don't think that's great because Celeste is just not very good, first of all, at the current patch. And the last pick could just be Reza, that would do so well against the Celeste, or even Alpha. So Alpha's not good against Cruel, which is the only problem. But a dive hero would be really good for Bren Esports here.
Yep, there is no reason for the side of Bren Esports not go and settle once again for that Reza. But I was actually thinking, Sky, there you have it. The traditional counter to Cruel is, you know, Sky. Sky is usually picked up against a Cruel, and in this particular patch with Dragon's Eye coming into play, I think Sky does decently well against a Cruel. Of course, there's the From Hell's Heart you have to be wary of, but you know, when you can just be very, very mobile against a Cruel that is without the puck, not exactly very mobile, I think the side of Bren Esports wins this draft.
Okay, I think that it's definitely not that simple. I think that Cruel isn't great against Sky, but is really good against Kestrel. And Kestrel Sky isn't a very good comp against the Celeste. So Bren Esports I think they have a slight advantage because they have a good counter in the jungle and quite a strong lane matchup. But this Celeste hasn't been countered, so there is a chance that if she can run out of the gauntlet with Reflex Block and Boots, and then Crucible with the second Echoed Gauntlet, Celeste can do a lot of damage on the backline. Very interesting to see what build we're going to see on the Celeste. Were we going to see Dragon's Eye first, Shatterglass, Frostburn, Clockwork, Eve? So many options for the Celeste to go. I'd like to see Dragon's Eye into Clockwork, into Eve, into Broken Myth, but that's just me. Maybe we're going to see something else. What do you think this Celeste is going to build, Luxuria?
I personally think the Celeste was picked up because of it being a comfort pick for the for Revenger X, and I think that's the only reason it's being picked up. But as back to your question, I reckon the Celeste will go for that Shatterglass first item. If not, then just settle for 2.8 meta because that is what we've seen Revenger X actually building on Celeste. Not very much that Dragon's Eye into Clockwork like you like, but more so of the 2.8, the Eve of Harvest or Frostburn first item into Eve of Harvest, Clockwork, and Broken Myth. I think that build is not exactly the greatest because, like you mentioned, Dragon's Eye on Celeste just does so much work, especially paired up with that Clockwork as well. Landing those Helios one after the other, just building up so much stacks. And then, of course, the Broken Myth for that extra shield pierce, and just dealing so much more damage from the backline. So, Cruel, what Cruel can do in this particular game, just tank up, try your best to tank up. More often, we do see Cruel in Southeast Asia going for the not Broken Myth, but Breaking Point as first item. Start tanking up just to, just deal, be the frontline nuisance that you can, and of course the sustain from Lyre speed boost from Lyre would definitely help a lot. And then Crew can just wreak havoc and then have Celeste just poke from the backlines. Whereas for the side of Bren Esports, their comp, although you say they do not synergize together well, but we've seen, Arden and Sky, they work fine together. Arden and Castro, they work fine together. Just that the two carries are not the best pairs to put up together.
Yeah, the two carries can poke quite well together. They have a lot of range and a decent amount of disengage and mobility. Kestrel with the active camera trap is really the only thing Kestrel can use to disengage. But it does work very effectively. If the flares don't come out very at the exact right time against this Kestrel, she'll be so elusive, really tough for Cruel to lock down. And there's only really from Hell's Heart that needs to be blocked. Crucible could be picked up for the core collapse because that can technically be a triple stun. But I think most likely it'll be blocked from Hell's Heart, run away from Cruel, and we'll be fine. Maybe even picking up War Treads on Arden before he goes for Crucible. Because that's really the win condition, is just run away from Cruel. Yes, Celeste can poke, but we think we can poke more with our two heroes as compared to their one. Even though those Helios are going to hurt an awful lot. And going back to the build, I think Dragon's Eye into Clockwork that I would like to see will work well in general as Celeste, but the downside to it is that you don't have the massive burst damage that can happen once Celeste hits level 8 with 2 damage items. If she goes Shatterglass into Broken Myth, for example, or Shatterglass into even Frostburn, then you have so much on-hit burst damage that just isn't present when you go for the scaling damage and you go for lower crystal power items such as Eve of Harvest, which is why Frostburn into Eve of Harvest on Celeste isn't a good build anymore, because it doesn't have the scaling damage, it doesn't have the burst. All it has is utility, and that's not really how you want to play Celeste at the moment.
Yep, it is not how you like to play Celeste, but I've been seeing a couple of Celeste when they are picked up, they go for the very traditional build. It's a build that I always tell people, don't go that build anymore. It's either you go for the Shatterglass, just impact damage, just go boom, boom, and everything just in your path just dies. You just obliterate, decimate everything in your path with, the power of the SARS. As Celeste, but a lot of times people still settle for the 2.8 meta for some odd reason, as we can see Revenger X on the main, on the Celeste. So in the early game, before Celeste actually get the range, I think Mr. Jim, Sync One on that Castro. Sync One will be on that Castro, so Mr. Jim will be in lane playing that Sky.
That is not what I was expecting. It looks like, and we might even see a Weapon Sky and a Crystal Kestrel, something we didn't really consider because CP Kestrel is really just out of the meta, but we are going to have to find out what they're going to go for, if Celeste is going to go boom boom, if we're going to see massive damage. We're loading into the Halcyon Fold for the first game, and yeah, Sync 1 bringing out the CP Kestrel. Very interesting rotation from 5-0 first though.
Tons of vision coming through from 500 at first, though. You have Lyra's Imperial Sigil, you have Bright Bulwark that can, if used at the right time, can just stop any form of Invis coming through because there's damage. But I don't know. I mean, Weapon Sky has been not in the meta at all for quite some time now. And then, as you mentioned, CP Castro easily countered with Vision, unless, of course, you play it and you have got a very good early game lead, then, it will not quite deter you, those Visions, because Guessing X on that Arden can just easily just pop all of those Vision. But I'm just down to see how Bren Esports will execute the team comp. But then seeing what is brought up by the set of Bren Esports, I want to say 500 first definitely did a very good job with drop.
Yeah, I think we're really stuck to see. It's all down to how well the orchestras work. Something we haven't seen a lot of. Weapon Sky has worked out before. It's a pick that as long as you put a breaking point, you will stack up an awful lot. I think Weapon Sky has one of the best stacking, will stack one of the quickest in the game, because you just can get so many basic attacks around the edge of the fight and dance around the edge of the fight. But this weapon, the CP Kestrel, going to be taking quite aggressive jungle start. ICJL is going to be a bit more passive on the Cruel, which I wasn't expecting. I thought he might try and go in, try and invade Kestrel when she can't get as many active camera traps down. Kestrel allows to get the first two elders, so somehow we've got a 1k gold lead for Bren Esports. How's that happened, Luxuria?
Well, I mean, looking at the CS, we have Mr. Jim sitting at 16 CS and Revenger X a mere 7. And for the jungle side, Sync1 9 CS, ICJL 9 CS, or JI 9 CS, and then Guessing X alone has got 3. So I guess it is just down to rotation and how fast they were rotating. Thus, they have got that, initial 1k gold lead. And X3 Jasmine definitely taking a ton of poke from Mr. Jim on this weapon Sky. And although I don't quite like when you play Sky in that of lane, because your forward barrages don't quite hit, but as a weapon Sky, don't quite rely on the forward barrage for damage. And with your Suri Strike being your main form of displacement, not displacement but repositioning ability, Guessing X though in a very weird position there.
Yeah, that is certainly not what you quite expect, but I really think Weapon Sky can work well, and Cruel does manage to get the first blood onto Arden. Guessing X, it was a weird position. Think about how nice forward bar. So Ice is going to go so low. And that's going to be healing fast pop sigil. Not going to be anywhere near where Icy wants to go. So nice start for Buzzer first, trying to close this gold deficit they are in. Mr. Jim is farming really well on this Weapon Sky. So it's not quite something you'd expect, and I don't think he's going to get this farm because CP Kestrel needs so much gold. CP Kestrel did get an indirect nerf with the changes to how Clockwork works. Clockwork with that damage amplification was so much better on CP Kestrel than it is now, with just giving you lower cooldowns, because that's not really how CP Kestrel wants to work. Nice damage though, Revenger X looking towards either the Shatterglass or Dragon's Eye first with the Heavy Prism and Eclipse Prism. So I think we're going to have to wait to see what this Revenger X can go for, but nice poke coming out onto Bren.
Yep, but Revenger X
go in. He's getting a bit of trouble. He's still going to Silly Strike in as I have to keep Revenger X alive, and Mr. Jim tried to be aggressive. He's working towards Soulblade, hasn't quite got it yet. And Revenger is quite healthy. Revenger X trying to do some work onto Guessing X, and Cruel picked up Tension Bow, looking to rotate up to lane. He needs to get that Shadows and Power Me perk. Guessing X is in the bush, so is Sync1. That's a lovely Silly Strike out the backline, but he could be in trouble. He doesn't know that Cruel is there, doesn't know that Cruel's going to come and kill him. Guessing X is going to take a lot of poke, but they know there's an active camera trap there. I see taking 2 glim shots to the face and 3. He's going to go aggressive though, he doesn't care. He's going to get his stacks, he's going to get the kill. He's impressive. Cruel's 3-0. Kestrel's trying to do the work, isn't level 6, so could one-shot Cruel or Lyra to easily secure the kill, but they just go tantalizingly close. Lovely plays from IC there.
Yep, very good plays, and of course a very on point Imperial Sigil that just dropped on time to just give Cruel that extra speed boost, and on top of that as well, the extra health regen from the Imperial Sigil. So very good play, and I want to say Mr. Jim on this guy a little too aggressive like we are seeing right now.
Right now, he's not too aggressive, he's perfectly aggressive. He knows Cruel's not there, he knows he can be way more aggressive against Revenger X, and he just Sui strikes in and then dodges that core collapse with just movement speed. So Revenger X isn't going to land it. ICJI has got a From Hell's Heart available if he decides to throw that out, but wants to go down shop. Probably pick up a reflex block for that from that Death Emerald well, because it is annoying to face against that. And he will most likely go into Breaking Point, but wants to pick up defense before doing so as well. So that could be picked up pretty soon on Cruel. Stun onto X3 Jasmine with that Death Emerald. Cruel is coming up to lane. He doesn't know that Mischief doesn't know he's there. He misses the forward barrage, so ICGL will be caught up by the flare. And now they're trying to spot out where Kestrel is. He's picked up a Shatterglass already. I think one shot, one kill was already used. And so now he's waiting to see if he can get a little bit of poke onto Jasmine in lane. Might go quite low. One going to be shot. Not quite going to hit. Second one. Not quite going to hit. Fountain, though. Wasted by Jasmine. He still dies. X3 Jasmine using the Fountain to keep himself alive. And it was not enough. Now Sync 1 trying to push this wave up. 4 claps already used. So Mr. could go aggressive. There's the Zoe. That's the aggressive play. He's got his Solar Blade. There's a Mouse Heart, though. Stunning him up. Talent's going to go to Kestrel. Mr. going to go so low. He's going to fall to that Celeste with that Supernova. I didn't like to see Frost burn, but it worked out in this game. Lots of damage and Cruel waiting. Going to walk into the trap. Going to take 391 damage. Popping the healing fast just in case there was another trap. And there has been a pause. So maybe some connection issues for one of the players. Hopefully that will be sorted very quickly.
Yep, and in that team fight alone, we did see that Sky just, once again, you say just nice in terms of aggression. I say the Suri Strike used to position itself in a better position. Not quite used by the side of by Mr. Jim on this guy. More often than not, he just Suri Strike into the arms, the loving arms of Danger and the loving arms of Cruel that really just want to DMR your face off. So maybe Mr. Jim have to rethink his engagement, rethink how he move around this map, because that is what you're better at as compared to a very immobile Celeste and a very immobile Castro when the Castro is firing off those glimmer shots. Guessing X on that Arden is definitely there to help you. Just to reposition yourself with the Vanguard, and when he hits level 6, those Gauntlet as well will definitely come in clutch. And whether or not Mr. Jim can just dance around the walls of the Gauntlet like we saw Onager did when he was on the Fox is another matter to consider. And so the side of Bren Esports, definitely a lot of variables that are not working in their favor, but if they manage to just pull off this team comp, it will be very, very strong. I mean, we saw the amount of damage coming through from Mr. Jim, as long as dodge those Helios, dodge those Core Collapse, but he has just got no answer whatsoever going up against ICJI on this crew.
Yeah, I think that it's nice to see Sky being aggressive with the Suri Strikes, because it means the fight's going to happen. It means people are going to do stuff, and the game is now resuming. Everyone has fixed their connection problems. I think one is back. He's going to get stunned up with Core Collapse. He walked into the bush. Don't face check. There's been an unpause. You need to be ready as soon as the game restarts. He face checked the bush. 5-0 first. We're waiting for him. Guessing X is going to be the next target. Where is the Spectral Smite? There it is. But I see it's going to go down to the turret shot. Guessing X with the bait. And he's going to try and defend this turret by himself. Vendrex very low. Going to have to port home. Low on energy and on health. So nice kill for 5-0 first. But I see going a bit deep under turret for Guessing X.
Yep, the first tier turret for the side of Bren Esports will not fall, but IC will be the one. And Bren Esports still not quite coming back at all. I hope Sync1 do manage to come back. He's losing a lot of precious farm. Every minute, every second he stays in base. And there we have it, Sync1 finally back, able to pick up that Void battery while he comes back. And the side, I personally think, and I want to say that the game is rather even, although we have more kills going over to the side of 500 at first, only because of the tons of gangs coming through from Crew. I see just playing very, very well on their Crew, just knowing when to come up and just help Revenger X when he's being aggressed upon. And so, but then the gold lead, or rather the side of 500 first, do not quite have the gold lead over.
Oh, that's Core Collapse used, gets cornered, there's the engage. It's not going to quite be a stun habit. One shot, one kill does come through, hits Jasmine. Jasmine going to go low, but used the Fountain on himself. Lovely ultimate from the Celeste. Solar Storm through most of the members now. Guessing X is the target. Will he go down? Not quite. Mischief's going to now touch, puts focus on Revenger X. Sync1's going to get engaged by a Cruel. There's no flare there. He can't go invisible. He's CP Kestrel. He's going to go down to the Smite. 466 damage. This will be Guessing X. Will he be the next target, or will they go for the turret? Mr. Jim is full health. He's going to walk into the scout trap and going to port home. Jasmine will get him with a basic attack, so he stops the port, and this will be an easy turret. Mr. Jim caught out by that scout trap that he does not know about. That's a lovely core collapse, and that'll be an engage. That'll be a dead Sky. No, they're blocked. The plays from Mr. Jim. Can he dodge this core collapse? The sword bars. No, can he dodge the healer Genesis? Yes, he can, but he cannot dodge basic attack. Using that forward barrage to tie in Kite for as long as possible wasn't quite enough. Now the turret will go down to Celeste and probably Goldmine as well.
Yep, very bad fight coming through from the side of Bren Esports. I was expecting, oh no, the side of Bren Esports will just go for that gold mine rather than the turret. But the turret will be found to just fall eventually. Oh, but guessing X maybe looking for a steal, maybe not.
Could be in a lot of trouble. Cool gets it with the Spectral Smite, but Vainglory so low on energy, and sadly, we're going to see it. Frostburn into Eve, there we go. Frostburn, Eve of Harvest on Celeste. We don't like this build. It's 2.8 meta. It's not what's the best this patch. And he's building towards Clockwork and Broken Myth as his next item. Split building to see. Not quite sure where he's going to go next. But we've talked about why this isn't great. It's just, you don't need to slow down the Sky. You don't need to slow down the Kestrel. You just need to burst them as quickly as possible. I guess Celeste is trying to kite for the crawl and trying to sustain as well as crawl. Nice damage. So that is going to be a stun by the Gauntlet. And Sky trying to go in, but a nice ball walk to make sure there is no further engage. And Vainglory is going to farm up this wave. Crawl, meanwhile, is in base. So it's not going to be too much aggression from 5-0 first at this point. Do you think Celeste is going to get that Clockwork next or the Broken Myth?
I think Celeste will go for that Broken Myth next. I mean, it is a very classic 2.8, although, like I called it Revenge X on the Celeste more often than not, just constantly goes for that, Frostburn into Eve of Harvest, and then, Broken Myth next item, and it off with a Clockwork. One shot, one kill. Comes through, but not hitting anyone. Yeah, a little bit wide. Call out touchdown. So Supernova onto Mr. Jim. Now that's going to be a healer coming down, and Lyra is going to portal away. Call going through the portal, doesn't get it from Hell's Heart onto closing in the wrong direction. Now Vainglory gets a double stun. Can he get a Supernova? Not quite. He's supposed to Solar Storm instead. Vainglory so low on energy. He needs to get a Clockwork if he wants to survive these fights with any sort of energy left. He's going to get much more now using that healing flask. And Vainglory trying to kite to Mr. Jim. I see he's not going to do that much. Can Vainglory do the damage? Getting basic stacks. Sky building up 12 breaking point stacks. Shut down. And that's going to be 14, 15 breaking point stacks on Mr. Jim. Can he do the damage onto ICJCL? Yes, he can. Sync 1's going to go down. But Sky with the breaking point gets an ace for Bren Esports, and that is Weapon Power Sky. That is Weapon Power Sky, but it looks very, very shady. I mean, I want to say it was a very, very clean fight, but it obviously wasn't. There was a lot of kiting, and that is what Weapon Sky should do, but it's not exactly the best. I'm not entirely sure as to why Mr. Jim or the set of Bren Esports have to make the game so much more difficult for themselves. They could have just went for Castro, a Weapon Castro, and a CP Sky would have worked so much better. But hey, it is what it is. They got an ace, they got one turret, and a one-shot, one kill will land on Revenge X on that Celeste, but we'll all be killed up by that Imperial Sigil, and that is the power of Lyra. We saw just now, it was a very close fight in between both 500 First and Bren Esports, but guessing X, you don't want to be there.
Yeah, there's going to engage. Atlas onto the Celeste, that's going to be disaster. Not really, Mr. Dim's going to... She's stuck walking into the corner, and she's going to try and heal up with Fountain with the Eve of Harvest. Celeste back half health with Jim, trying to keep this breaking stacks into the Arcane Passage, but Pets, that's going to be a Celeste going down, that's going to be a Call going down. Mr. Jim on this Weapon Power Sky, 20 breaking point stacks, easy double kill. Kestrel wants to get the Lyra, but it's not going to happen. Sentry's going to go down, Goldman's going to go down. This is looking so good for Bren Esports. Revenge X is unable to do anything because he built wrong. Don't go Frostburn Eve this patch on Celeste, please.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say that he built wrong. He probably has got his reasons. Maybe he don't think that Shattered Glass is worth it as an item. I'm not too sure. I don't think. Maybe he doesn't think that Dragon's Eye is a worth it item. I mean, I don't know what is going through Revenge X's mind right now, going for that build itself, but. Going for that build basically means that you do not quite have the burst like you mentioned, and on top of that as well, it's quite difficult for Celeste to just catch Mr. Jim on this very mobile, just movement hero like that of Sky that can slowly strike around, that can just strive around you, and it will be so difficult unless of course you are basically attacking him to death. Then yes, you can catch him out, but with your heliogenesis and your landmines that you want to put down, it's so difficult, and the Eve of Harvest really just only worked when you land those, kills.
Well, that's got to come through. Trip, double stun, sorry. Now Lyra's stuck inside. She's trying to get out, Calls diving in, trying to get some notification. We're going to get stunned up. Lyra pulls away. Now Sky going to go through that portal to try and come back into the fight. Onto Revenge X now, but there's going to be Celeste. Kestrel is the main focus. Kestrel's going to go down, so is Celeste. And now, who's going to win this? Is it going to be Sky or Crawl? Well, Sky is the main Crawl counter, so IC is in a big world of hurt. 13 breaking point stacks Here we go, Mr. Jim. We've seen this twice before. Will we see it again? Atlas comes through. He is ridiculous. 7 and 3. Cool's managed to get away this time, though, with that Shadows and Power Me perk. So Mr. Jim not going to get the triple, but he's now got a Poison Shiv just to add to the hurt of Revenge X being dying so quickly. He's not even going to get as much healing now. Sentry may go down to Bren Esports here. No, they want to push in a bit too aggressive. The Mr. Jim is low on energy, and he's just going so aggressive on this Sky. Wants to get this tree, will be able to not quite get it. Mr. Jim actually, no, sorry, ICJO will steal it away from Mr. Jim, so he's struck over the wall, and now one shot, one kill hits Surrender X. Mr. Jim fast stacking up, and Cool's going to go solo. How is he not dead? He is now going to die. Mortal wound now going to be replied onto the Celeste. Can Mr. Jim do the 1 versus 3? He's got 1. He's got 2, and Slimer's going to get the kill. He doesn't get the 1v3. Shut down for the Lyra, and now Sync 1 is going to try and see if he can sneak Jasmine. But lovely plays from Mr. Jim. That is a powerful weapon power Sky at this point.
That is, and I think the only reason Mr. Jim did not quite secure that 1v3, it's because of the lack of energy. I mean, let's all be honest, if Mr. Jim had got a Suri Strike up, had got enough energy to just Suri Strike and just displace X3 Jasmine on that Lyra, they could have had a better chance, or rather not they, but he could have had a better chance. I mean, he survived for such a long time against Icy, against Revenger X, and there was nothing the side of 500 first can do. I mean, Mr. Jim, 20 breaking point stacks every single time in every single fight. How are you going to stop it if you cannot land those Atlas Pauldron on him? And even then, he still sits on 20 stacks, and it will be so difficult landing Atlas Pauldron on the Vox already, much less a very crafty Sky.
Yeah, the main problem for what 5's first are doing is if they Atlas Mr. Jim, he'll just fall barrage and he'll do not much damage, but he'll keep his stacks up. Damage gonna come through Celeste, gonna block out of that Death Above, and that is gonna be a nice from Hellstark coming through. Gauntlet wasted. Lyra used the portal as well. Lovely Suri Strike, but it is stopped by the Bulwark. That's gonna be Mr. Jim going to the portal, building up as many stacks as he can. Zip 1, dealing damage to the backline. X3 Jasmine is gonna go quite a little bit. So is guessing X. Nice Suri Strike back over the wall from Mr. Jim. Just going everywhere. Nice Raw Barrage actually gonna get a lot of damage onto Avenger X, which we don't expect. One shot. Going to hit him again. Avenger X now going to go back to half health after that Imperial Sigil. Mr. Jim lost his breaking point stacks. Looks like he's going to build a Bone Saw as his last item. I would not expect that. He's going to go for it. Celeste not going to build any defense, going 4 damage items. Pretty glass cannon at the moment, but he's still got a Bone Saw on this crawl, I guess. Nice Death Unlock. Going to zone out Avenger X. He's stuck. Can he get the damage? Helo not going to hit. That is going to be Celeste going to go down. Solo Soul's going to be enough, and now that's going to be a heal. Mr. Jim is going to survive. How? How is he alive? Not anymore. Cool's going to block a bit too early, and Kestrel is waiting. Is Kestrel going to go for it? Not quite. Guessing X did die with the Crucible available, so a little bit of a misplay from him. But a nice fight for 5-0 first. They killed the Sky. I really don't think Bone Saw is the right item against this comp, because they know Cool's going to get Atlas, so not Metal Jacket. Celeste isn't going to get Metal Jacket, and Lyra's already got Atlas, so it's not really doing that much for the Sky. I'd rather see more, 2 crit items or 1 crit item.
Yep, maybe the Tyrant's Monaco would have worked a little better. I mean, don't even have to go for the Shiv. I mean, the Mortal Wound definitely will come in handy going up against a Lyra, but I don't think a Shiv it's the good item to pick up right now. If had Mr. Jim just went for, you know, Sorrow Blade into breaking double Tyrant's Monaco, increase the crit chance, increasing the crit damage, he will be putting out so much more without building all the way down up to 20 stacks.
Gauntlet comes through, Avenger X stuck inside, he doesn't block out, but he does get out of the Gauntlet. IC is going to go solo, but he's going to jump onto Kestrel. Kestrel gets the damage though down, and Cool is going to go to the Sky. Sky, 4 breaking point stacks, he's losing down to 0 again, but Avenger X is he's not doesn't want to do anything. Hasn't got the Aegis, so that's going to be a nice emote from Avenger X. And he's standing in there inside the trap, but doesn't know. Mr. Jim, very aggressive. That's going to be a no block onto the core collapse. He'll be able to do it. Mr. Jim is so low. He's Atlas. He's got Atlas coming through so big from Avenger X, and that will be a kill, a double, a triple for Avenger X on this Celeste. He's going to go get an Aegis, and this will be a Kraken. Nice plays from 5-0 first. Didn't expect it to work, but maybe Mr. Jim was too low.
Well, maybe that, or we saw the slows coming through from this Celeste as well. It was so difficult for Mr. Jim to just, you know, dance around the fight, and Sync 1 as well, when they were retreating, and then Revenger X is setting those Helios down, slowing them when they were retreating. That is definitely the thing that won them the fight, and thus I guess Frostburn coming in handy. The Evil Harvest helping us sustain, coming in handy. The Clockwork, the Broken Myth as well, Shield Pairs, and all the pairs, all the sustain, all the cooldowns. 2.8 coming in handy. I mean, that is all I can say for Revenger X. There is really nothing much for her build. Of course, it is a subpar build as compared to, say, the Shattered Glass.
Oh, that could be a bad position for X3 Jasmine. Revenger X, and I see nowhere near. He forced the portal all back. This could be a free Kraken. Carl's going to go down. Meanwhile, the fight is breaking out. Block on the Atlas. This is really good for Mission, but Sync wants to go to Supernova. And Solar Storm comes through. Revenger X is going to get healed up. Cool is the focus for Sky. 17 stacks already. 20 stacks. Here we go. This is going to be a Sky melting if she's able to sustain. But she's forward barging. That's going to do nothing onto ICJL. He's going to try and run. Sky Sewer Strike up in a second. Can she get away? Fountain comes through. Ice is going to go low. And now Sync 1 is trying to do damage to Revenger X going onto the turret. He just doesn't care. Meanwhile, LCGL is going low. That will be an easy kill for Mr. Jim. Atlas comes through. Celeste going to get the turret. Revenger is going to stand inside that active camo trap. And Kraken is pushing down the base. Solar Storm comes through. He's going to get hit by all of it. But it's not going to be enough. Gauntlet not available for another 30 seconds. And Sky going to leave Celeste alone. Kraken, 2 turrets. Pretty happy. Half damage on the third one.
Yep. Base cracked wide open for the side of 500 First, or rather for the side of Bren Esports. 500 First, they are definitely finding a momentum right now. You just really need Icy. Icy now do not quite have the damage, but as long as you can stick onto the Sky and try to be a nuisance and allow Revenger X to poke from the back, that is quite the winning solution, winning strategy coming into this game. You have Sky that's very mobile, but if you seclude her, isolate her from Revenger X, there is nothing, there is no way he can just go up back into Revenger X, and he has to deal with the crew first, because if the crew just stacks up on that of Mr. Jim will not be putting out much damage at all.
Yeah, I don't mind the Poison Shiv on Mr. Jim. I think that's a fine purchase against a Lyra with a heal, a Cruel with a Spectral Smite, and a Celeste with Neve of Harvest. It makes sense, but I don't like the the Poison Shift and the Bone Saw, because he's getting 20 breaking point stacks. If he had Soul Blade breaking point double Tyrants, he would be shredding through the Celeste as soon as he hits max stacks. So as soon as he gets about 12 stacks, Celeste is going to get melted. Doesn't matter if she's got a heal, she's just going to die to this Sky. So I think Mr. Jim really needs to get crit. I wouldn't mind him selling his build, so not selling his entire build, of course, selling that Bone Saw for a crit item, maybe even selling the Shiv for another crit item if we get that late into the game, because he's not doing the work he needs to. Cruel's got an Atlas, Lara's got an Atlas. There is no need for that Bone Saw. He's got the gold to sell it and buy a Tyrants, but he's not going to. He's going to get an Infusion. So I really think Mr. Jim's just if he changes that build up, gets a little bit of crit, then Celeste is going to go down so much quicker. She's only got defense on Kestrel, and this will be a much easier game and fight for Bren Esports.
Yep, it is very, very difficult now. I mean, we even saw the amount of
coming
damage.
through. Bulwark's not enough, and that is going to be called the focus. But Lyra stuck inside the gauntlet, and Mr. Jim, 2 gauntlet. That Venn diagram coming in big. Celeste is the next focus. Mr. Jim waits for that Sui Strike up in a couple of seconds. He's still got target lock. He Sui Strikes for across the map. Revenger is going to be the focus. Sync1's going to go quite low. He's going to go down to Supernova, but Mr. Jim gets the kill. Fountain used. Bit late to save Sync1, but it will keep Mr. Jim alive. Lyra's most likely going to survive, but Kraken is on the fold. She's angry. She's going to be taken by Bren Esports. I don't think Lyra's going to steal it, but to be fair, she can get away if she just tries for it for the Imperial Sigil. And if they do steal it, this would be really good for 5-0 first. Is it going to happen?
Yep, let's just wait and see if X3 Jasmine have got what it takes to actually go in, but the Atlas Powder will land on the Sky, and Sky will not be able to put in as much damage as Mr. Jim hopes, but leaving Gassing X to take Kraken alone.
He can do it. Give him about five minutes, and Arden will come back to you with a Kraken that has been taken Sigil up in 3 seconds. What Mr. Jim was doing there was he was trying to bait Lyra into using Sigil a bit early, but she nearly steals it. Gauntlet comes through, gets the stun. Echo not available until now, and he uses it, but he doesn't use it quite easily on the Gauntlet, actually. Arden can use Echo, and he does. Smart plays from Guessing X. I was actually looking at his boots cooldown. He waited until Echo was available, didn't use the Vanguard to keep Mr. Jim alive. He saved it, and now has got another Gauntlet ready for this Kraken push. I really like to see that, but that is, yes, she sold her Bone Saw. Mr. Jim sold the Bone Saw for a Tornado Trigger. I'm so happy.
Yep, probably heard us, and now the next thing will be selling your shift and then buying a Tyrant's Monaco. Let's go, Mr. Jim, you can do this.
We can agree to disagree on the shift. I think it's find out how this build is going to work on Sky. Corner over the wall, trap up all 3 members. Wall and on the Celeste, and that is going to be a turret going down to the Kestrel. What's going to be the call? Are they going to go in? Sink1 is trying to do damage on the backside. He's going to go that low, 700 from that Supernova. He's got a block but hasn't got an edge. One shot going to hit onto the crawl, and that is going to be getting it. It's going very low. He uses the Vanguard on himself. This is very, very passive from Bren Esports. Are they going to go in? Is that the call? From Hellstar comes out. It hits on the Guessing X, and there's going to be a ball walk to stop any series strikes from Mr. Jim. He's going to get the Vanguard, use the block. He dodges out the call cut. He's now onto the Celeste. Look at that Celeste getting bursted down, but an Atlas comes through, so Mr. Jim is going to go very low. The tower will go down, but he's going to try and chain onto Avenger X, and Guessing X wants to do it. He's not going to be able to do anything. Kestrel will back away, and backdoor question mark. I don't think it's going to happen. X2 Jasmine got that bounce, got that contraption to try and defend from Sync1's backdoor, and there was a decent amount of vision. Sync1 is going very far away. He's not giving up the ace because they might even push to win. There were 40-second death timers on the Arden. One shot. Gonna hit Avenger X. He's so low.
Oh.
Trap does get the damage, but the heal comes.
Once again, another scout trap.
He's got the heal from Lyra. He'll be fine now. Another 725 healing. But that one shot into scout trap combo nearly got him. But X2 Jasmine comes through with the plays, and the portal is available over the wall for the win. I think Five First could have done it, but Kestrel knows exactly what is up. Two traps are placed where that portal would go, and Five First, they're a bit late, but they're going for it. That is a trap. Gonna hit up from Hellstar, comes through. Will he get the damage onto Kestrel? Not quite. And Five First only get one turret, so this game's gonna keep going on. Arden going to go out. He uses the boot. He's got the bulwarks by the blight bulwark from Lyra, so that's going to be cancelled, and now they've got to keep chasing. No more boots for the Arden. Kestrel got out by the healer Genesis. Avenger X trying to kite back, hasn't got Dragon's Eye, so not stacking, but is doing a bit of poke. Mr. Jim, next person he's going to boost in. Gauntlet comes through, and that is going to be Avenger X stunned, getting bursted down, but Atlas stands with the Mr. Jim, so that is going to be a bit of damage, not for him. Stun does come out to Mr. Jim. He's getting locked up, and he's going to go down. Now Sync1 is the only man left standing, but he's got no energy. Sync1's going to fall to the call. Double for him, and Arden now has to defend by himself. Sell your build, go Crystal. I think this game is going to be 5-0 first.
Yep, there is no reason 5-0 First to not push in at this point. I mean, Guessing X, try as you may, but
Guessing X goes for the 1v3 as an Arden. Can he do it? 34 seconds he has to just go, why not? Go for the last man hero.
Oh!
And he gets into base, the baits. And it's 5-0 First, like, yeah, we should probably stop trying to kill Arden. Let's just take the turret. Let's just win the game. And in the end, the weapon Sky, not quite big enough. He did sell his poison shiv in the end for a Tyrant's Monocle. Not sure if he had that for the last team fight, but it wasn't enough. 5-0 First, take game 2.
Yep, and Sky, I want to say, and I said it earlier on as well, Sky, why is Bren Esports making things so difficult for them? They could have just swapped their roles around and it would have been a much easier game coming into the second game, but to start at 500 First, I don't want to say that Bren Esports played bad, but it was because 500 First just played phenomenally in that late game, just able to just zone the entire team of Bren Esports out. And I must say, the Frostman coming in very, very clutch half the time, just stopping Mr. Jim on the tracks in his tracks, and he's just unable